Ironman Frankfurt European Champs 2022. This video is a little bit of a race recap. I want to talk a little bit about the build into the race, how the dynamics sort of played out, and then kind of ultimately the early finish to the race for me. So those that don't know, I DNF'd IM Frankfurt. I made a lap of the run, so about sort of 10.5 kilometers, but it just wasn't my day. Body was shutting down on me. Which there's a few reasons which I'll sort of go to in this video. Right, so from the top, traveled out to Frankfurt with my dad, who did a lot of the filming on the GoPro, and we basically road tripped it on Thursday morning. Took the Channel Tunnel, road trip down to Frankfurt. It was only like sort of 6 hours, so it's not too bad at all. Settled in, did a little easy jog down to the river, saw where the transition was, saw where the sort of the race finish was going to be, and kind of the expo, all that sort of stuff. Nice, cool, really sort of cool area by the seafront, by the riverfront there. And Frankfurt is just sort of a big metropolitan city, so it's a weird one because you're in Germany, but it didn't feel like massively German, if that makes sense. So the next couple of days, we just went through the standard, pro briefing on the Friday, easy swim, easy ride, easy run off the bike with a bit of activation work. So a few little sort of 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 at race pace or race effort. Then on the Saturday was kind of, again, a little bit of easy training. So I had an hour with a few little 90 seconds, just opening up the tank a little bit, and a swim at the venue, which was absolutely stunning. The water was like crystal clear. It was like 24 degrees. It was like literally beautiful to swim in. And then the rest of that day was all about admin. So racking the bike in T1 with the helmet and all that sort of stuff. I then put the run bag into T2, which is right in the middle of town again. So that's a bit of a logistical nightmare because it's about a 25-minute, half an hour drive. And with city centres, you never know what you're going to get. And then I did a little bit of course recce in terms of just in the car. We went out and drove a little bit more for an hour just to familiarise a little bit of the sections of the roads I hadn't seen yet. And yeah, then it was legs up, carbs in, pizza the night before the race, just to really sort of like get that nice simple carbs in the body, and then it was on to race day. So the bike, this is where like the race went like really well but really badly at the same time. I anticipated riding pretty solid. I probably anticipated riding slightly easier than I did, but I'll kind of explain that now. I think I kind of built up in my head that Ironmans start pretty hard, and a lot of the pro races you see people go kind of full gas. You see that, I don't know if it's just mainly chase packs, but they tend to have a really strong start for 30 minutes at the beginning and then settle down afterwards. So that's what mentally I was kind of prepared for. So I set off quite strong. I ended up taking the front about a kilometre into the race, and then sort of just sat at a nice sort of strong power at like 330, 340, something that I could sustain for quite a long time. But it was probably, it definitely is over Ironman pace. I kind of didn't really look around. I was kind of expecting someone to come around and take a turn at some point, but no one really did. So I led into Frankfurt and then onto the first loop, which was pretty cool. After about sort of 15 kilometers into the race, I did turn around to see who was there, and turns out we dropped 3 of the guys already, and it was just me and Lucas Waltz. I knew Lucas was only doing 1 lap on the bike, but I wasn't really sure what his tactic was, if he was going to like drill it at 70.3 effort, if he was just taking it easy as a training day. So I kind of gave him a little bit of a signal to like, you know, come around and have a go, because I'd been leading for like 20 minutes, 25 minutes at that point. And he actually rode up to me, which you might have seen on the live stream, and everyone started kicking off on the live stream because he kind of literally came next to me and then dropped back behind me, and everyone said that should be a penalty, which it should, but he was already pulling out, and I think the officials knew that, so therefore they didn't bother giving him a penalty. And he actually came up to inform me that he wasn't going to take a turn on the front because he was pulling out. And he basically just said that, look, I'm only doing a lap. I don't want to interfere with the overall race result. So therefore, you know, it would be unfair of me to drag you along, to take turns, that sort of thing. And we kind of exchanged words, and it was a bit frustrating because I kind of, at that point, I'd spent 25 minutes and I kind of isolated. Whereas if I had him who was willing to work with me, you know, we had 2 people sitting 12 meters apart, we could have really done some damage. But that's part of racing. So anyway, I kind of just carried on, and I had really, really good legs. And this is where I think the naivety of, you know, actually only doing a couple of full distances and never doing a pro full distance came into effect, because I was getting time splits to the guy in third, so the guy behind Lucas, and that went from 1:30, 2 minutes, 2:30, 3 minutes, 3:30. So for that first like 100k, I was getting further ahead, and I was feeling really strong, and I was probably going, you know, 10, 15 watts too hard, but it didn't feel like I was going too hard, and I was kind of getting this really positive reinforcement that I was doing really well. Anyway, so I finished the first loop, which was about 100k. Lucas pulled off, and I started the second loop, which was, you know, 80-ish, maybe just over 80k. And again, just sort of carried on at my pace. I probably dropped down to about what I actually intended to ride, sort of, you know, 290 to 300 watts. But I think at that point, I definitely had already put a bit more fatigue in the body than I was expecting. I went over the cobbled section for the second time, and at that point it was 115k into the race, and I still had a 2.5 minute gap, which the guy on the time board showed me, which again, I was losing a bit of time, but I was kind of thinking to myself, well, if they don't catch me till 150, 155, 160k, you know, as long as I'm not overworking, I hopefully can then just slot in, and the last little like 10k is all downhill anyway, and then I come into transition with the lead pack. This is where I'm still like sort of scratching my head, because I didn't actually drop much power then. I know that the sort of main group were working together, and I know that they did sort of start really charging at that point in the race. But after I'd gone over the cobbles, the section between 150 and 130k, I lost 2.5 minutes. And if you look on my data, I still averaged over 300 watts, I think, or around 300 watts in that section. So, and after the race, I could see that my rotor on my disc was just slightly touching the brake pads on it. So I don't know if, you know, the rubbing brake was causing me to lose a bit of speed. And I know it sounds like a minor thing, but, you know, if it's losing me a couple of kilometers an hour, a few kilometers an hour, you know, that's where that 2 minute gap can just disappear really, really quickly. We'll never know. I think it was a combination of that, but even when the group caught me, I was pushing stupidly hard to try and stay on the line, and I just couldn't work out why I couldn't sit at 12, and I ended up getting spat after about 10, 15k riding with them, which shouldn't have happened, you know, when I was pushing really good power. So maybe something mechanical I need to look at, maybe get a new rotor, look at the braking system a little bit. But, you know, it's annoying because I had such a great ride for like 150, 120k, and I led the race till about 130k. Ended up riding the last sort of 20k back to 30k back to transition on my own. Starting to feel a little bit sorry for myself. I definitely could tell that I'd over pushed a little bit, and I think looking at sort of like kilojoules of work and stuff like that, I just basically pushed myself a little bit further beyond what I was anticipating I'd do, but also probably what I've trained my body to do thus far. Anyway, got off the bike, instantly was, it was not good. Just had no mechanical form. Hamstrings were like not cramping, but just like function wise, just not there. So ended up sort of just trying to build into the run. Was hoping after like, a K or two, actually I might start feeling better. But it just never really came around. Didn't feel like an energy issue because I actually took on 100 grams an hour on the bike. I was taking on gels still stomaching them. But I just didn't have I think at that point I just put too much fatigue in my legs. I got a bit excited. You're leading the European Championships. You've got a stacked field behind you of a lot of people who want to obviously take that European title. And I, at one point, I had a 3.5 minute gap on them. So I think overall, power-wise, I was probably a little bit higher than I should have been. Application of it definitely pushed a little bit too hard. Mechanically, if that wheel was an issue, that could account for why I lost sort of 4 or 5 minutes at the end. But overall, it wouldn't have saved my run. But I think the reason I'm so positive from the result is that it kind of gave me probably about 3 or 4 like major things that made me really think like, right, I can actually really compete at this level. I swam at the front of the race, which kind of shows me that, I think I can lead, especially over an Ironman distance. I think I can always be, first, second, third. I can always be there at the start of the bike, which I think is, crucial, and a lot of athletes never get that opportunity. And it was a non-wetsuit swim, which, hopefully one day when I'm racing in Kona, that again means I'll be able to get in that lead pack or the lead 2 or 3 swimmers. On the bike, it just showed that my position, my equipment choice, minus the possible rubbing disc, and just how I was riding, it shows that I really have, a strong ability on the bike. I think what I'm now lacking is, experience, work, hours in the saddle. I'm still only riding on a really good week, 11 hours, where I think, if I can bulk that up, increase the long ride a little bit longer, I think that's where I'm just going to condition my body a lot more. And I think that actually I don't need to get any necessarily much better at running, because I'm running really, really well at the moment. I think it's just about not riding easier, but conditioning my body to handle that amount of energy and energy burning on the bike, how that affects, me muscularly, I think. And actually being able to get off and mechanically run, to the level that I know I can run to. So yeah, that's Ironman Frankfurt. What is really exciting now is, because of how I raced from the front, I am like super motivated. I want to really put in big block of work. I really want to get back to work, put in work. But I'm already sort of setting my sights on my next opportunity for a full distance. I've kind of hinted on my Instagram that, I will be on the beach in Tenby in September, where, there's no surprise. I'm gonna put it out on the line. I'm gonna put all into that race. And it's a race that I know, it's a local race, and I'm going to try and put myself in the best possible position to, race from the forefront again. I think that leading the race in Frankfurt kind of gave me a big satisfaction in terms of, this is why I do triathlon, this is why I do sport. It's, to race, to be in the race, to lead the race, for that excitement, that adrenaline rush. And although I wasn't able to finish or like see it through to the end, I still feel like my triathlon age is really, really young. You know, I'm still in my 20s, so my age is actually young still, but my triathlon age, you know, I'd never ridden a bike in 2018, really. So I'm only 4 years, well, 3.5 years of cycling. So I'd like to think that I'm still on an upward trend in terms of that. Running in the same boat in terms of a lot more to come. And then, you know, I think they say Ironman's an old man's game, and I think the only reason they say that is because it does take time for the body to condition to that effort. It's not like 70.3, you can kind of get away with it, but I think, you know, the longer it goes, it's more of a who can hold it together, not who's like necessarily the quickest or the most powerful. So yeah, super pumped. Thank you for following along on this crazy journey. Thank you for everyone who watched on Ironman Now. Thank you for everyone who dropped me a message, and to everyone who has subscribed to the channel. Yeah, the next big goal is September. I'm going to put in the best block of work I can physically do now to get to that position. And I hope to see as many of you in Tembe September the 11th, I believe. So anyway, cheers for watching. Sorry it's a long one. And I hope you guys enjoyed the video.